Hey Tom Dom. DVT.
Additional supply depots required.
SCV ready. SCV ready.
So let's see. So far, nothing spectacularly weird except that your money is getting kind of high for the beginning of the game, but you know, I'm okay with that. There we go, see? Now it dropped back down, so all's well. Doing the reactor before the factory kind of delays your factory, and when you're going 1-1-1, getting the factory and the starport as quick as possible is pretty crucial to, you know, survival and such. If we look at the 6-minute benchmark, we're looking for $1,000 of army and 24 workers, and you've got $725 of army, and that's pretty, you know, that's good enough, especially with you've got the bunker. You can pretty much survive whatever comes at this point, so that's fine. And in TVT, the 1-1-1 open air is pretty common. If you get the factory just before the whatever this is called, that only buys you like 15 game seconds, which is like nothing. So it's something to consider, but it really doesn't matter. So just completely forget that I said it. Anyway, you're doing good so far. You spent a lot of money, and you've got your 3 buildings that you want, and you know, all sorts of cool stuff. Reactor. That's weird. You're not going to have the gas to spend a reactor on a starport right now. You definitely don't want to have done that. I don't know why you did it. As you can see, the starport has been idle, and the factory has been idle for a long time. There's just not enough gas, because tanks. I mean, in TVT, you pretty much, if you're going 1-1-1, you typically want to constantly produce tanks out of that factory, like all the time, because if you fall too far behind on tanks, you're doomed. And 1 factory mass tank is, you know, pretty much good enough to survive anything. And tanks are also crucial to attacking and whatever. So you can either not make tanks, or you can make a bunch of tanks. But making just a small number of tanks, they cost so much to get siege mode in your first tank that it's really, I don't know. In TVZ and TVP, it's cool to make 1 or 2 tanks and stick with that. But in TVT, I kind of like constantly producing tanks and then making the air units and the upgrades secondary. And that means tanks use a ton of gas, 125 every 45 seconds, so like 170 per minute. And 1 base gas income is only 240 or something, 220. So you really have almost no gas left over. So you can afford to go constantly tanks and 1 Viking every time the cycle comes up. Right? But you can't afford this reactor. It's just silly. But anyway, who really cares? Again, that's not a really important, crucial distinction. So one thing that I've mentioned before, never put your tanks out front, right? Because your tanks have this huge range, right? So if you put your tanks here, you can have your M&M here, and the tanks will still be able to hit what the M&M can hit. You want your tanks to be 7 range behind your Marines. So, yeah, that's bad. That's bad. And tanks have a very low health per dollar too. Also, having bunkers that are not used, you got 3 bunkers and you're making an attack, that's kind of a lot of money being pulled away from the attack. And I already mentioned this reactor core delayed your first air unit quite a bit and wasn't really used for a long time. Got $700 in the bank as well. What I've said a lot of times is that when you are the one attacking, you get to choose whether you want to attack strong or attack weak. And so when you go, you get to look at how much money do I have and how much of it have I spent on stuff that's not contributing to this attack, like a turret and 3 bunkers. So yeah, I'd say the strength of your attack at almost 10 minutes is pretty wussy. You've got, I don't know what that is, 450 plus 400, 500, 600. So 1,050 or something. At 10 minutes, you're looking for 3,000, and you've got like 1,000. So that's 1/3 the strength that you want to have at this point. And as you can see, because you're right at his base, he gets to fight with his whole army. So you're only fighting with the fraction of your army, and he's fighting with the whole thing, and he just completely dominates you. And that's not, like, the positioning there was perfect for you, right? You have tanks in range of his ramp. He's fighting with low health, highly packed M&M. So what you wanted to do was siege up these tanks way back here, put your Marines out front, and start building a bunker here. And then as he walks down the ramp, your tanks are going to smack him and smack him and smack him. But see how long, like, your tanks only get one shot off because of this, the sieging up and unsieging kind of thing. So yeah. If you go on the unit test map and you take an equal-sized army of M&M versus Marine tank, the Marine tank will always win if they're sieged before they see the M&M, and they'll usually lose if they're unsieged when the battle starts, because that sieging process takes like forever. It buys the M&M a whole bunch of extra not being shot at time. So that was really bad. If you look at units lost right there, that's 1,000 lost and 450 whatever lost for him. So you're pretty significantly behind at this point. And now he's going to come and do a counter, right? So when you know a counter is coming, what do? Well, you've already got bunkers, and you've even got a high ground bunker. You've got to decide, are my 2 bunkers strong enough to kill the last thing that I saw from him? And the last thing that you saw was 4 Marauders and 10 Marines. I'd say, so you're wondering whether 8 Marines can kill 10 Marines and 4 Marauders if they have bunkers. And I'd say yes, they can probably win this if you have a ton of SCVs. So you gotta, at this point, when they're leaving here, you gotta throw SCVs at your second. I mean, your command center's already on, so you can send them over to start mining and then pull them off to repair when the time comes. And load them full of crap. So you did that, but you did it late, so these guys aren't going to arrive in time. So right now, your bunker's getting shot at, and your guys aren't going to make it in time. So you got to ditch this base. You know, it's doomed. Lift this, retreat, maybe salvage this bunker, throw these Marines in here, lift this supply depot, put all these guys on auto repair lined up right here and right here, and then start building another bunker here and another bunker here, and then wait until you have 2 or 3 tanks and a dropship, and then you can finally get down. But it's really like, I don't know, it's hard to make these decisions within a fraction of a second, so I understand why this game went badly for you. Basically, the problem was that you attacked with $1,000 of army at 10 minutes when the benchmark is 3,000. It's not like I expected you to survive after that. This counterattack is pretty deadly, and it's okay for you to have died to it. The real problem was that first attack. You made multiple medivacs, which spent $400 of your cashish, and this is also another $350 to build the reactor'd starport. Like, that's a lot of money invested in getting these air units, and then you attacked before they were out. That's just silly. So yeah, it's just, you just got to kind of get a sense for when you're strong and when you're weak. And in general, you're strong when every building you've made that can produce units has produced units, at least a little bit, and when your money is down to 0 and any upgrades you're working on are complete. So yeah, that's when you're strong, and this was not when you were strong. So if we look at army spending at 10 minutes, you had enough now at this is 100 plus 300, so that's 400 plus 600, and so you had 2,700 at 10 minutes. So if you'd left your base around now instead of leaving it before now, you would have done better, because the 2 medivacs would have been able to participate in the fight, and that's pretty crucial. I mean, when you're attacking with a $1,200 army, the $400 medivacs are pretty crucial. But I don't know. It feels like if you're going to make $400 worth of defenses and an extra command center that you're not even using, then why attack, you know? You want to attack with strength, and this is a build. When you got that command center and built the 3 bunkers and the turret, you're kind of committing yourself to being strong once the air units are out. So don't attack until then. I don't know. I just keep saying the same thing in different ways. So, yeah. That is what I have to say about that. If you make a starport, use it before you attack. If you make an expo, make a mule out of it before you attack. You know, if you have a bunch of bunkers, either salvage them or, you know, wait a little while after you build them before you attack. all those things kind of contribute to you being slightly weaker for a short period of time. And you can't attack during that short period of time where you're weaker. That's just silly. So I think you definitely would have done really well in this game because your opponent went 3 racks M&M with no tanks and no expo and just infantry upgrades, which is a terrible strategy if he attacks into pre-siege tanks, right? So you were going M&M and M with tanks, which is going to be awesome against his M&M with no tanks. If you wait long enough, you know. So yeah, it was just really unlucky that you attacked when you did, and that your tanks were out front, and that they weren't shooting when the Marines walked clumped up down the ramp, and that you didn't wait for your air units. And so like, I think you had a really good chance to win this game. So that's great, right? Because I've said lots of times the first thing you got to work on is economy, and then spending your money, and then the rest of this stuff, positioning and what to attack with and when to attack and all that kind of stuff. So you did the first 2 correct, and you lost due to the third one, and that's what we like to see. No regression, man. Don't go losing games because of a bad economy, or else I'll punch you in the face. But you can still lose games for this reason. That's totally fine. So good job. Good job.